Welcome to Pink Radio with Prestige. This is the place for you, the diva boss entrepreneur who needs quick tips on building your crave-worthy brand. This is your host, Nicole Doss, CEO of the Prestige Society, a membership organization for women entrepreneurs who believe in building powerful networks while slanging in their industries. So I want you to go ahead and grab your favorite cup of coffee and get your favorite tips right here with Prestige. I am so happy to have on Pink Radio with Prestige, the CEO and founder of TYP Social Media and Company, Antoinette Miner.
Oh, thank you.
So, excited, guys. Yes, I want everyone out there to know that Antoinette, yes, she's a member of Prestige, but she is someone who I just have a special place in my heart for. I think she is stinking awesome. I think she is great. Just you have a fresh and innocent, and I'm not saying you're innocent because, we grow women out here, but I'm just you have this really fresh and innocent presence about yourself that I think makes people feel really attracted to you and your brand and just really resonates with them. And if my niece Whitney is listening, niece, this is who I think your doppelganger is. I swear.
Hi, Whitney.
So I, really thank you for being on here. And for the audience out here, I want you to know this is the time for you to grab your cup of coffee, tea, glass of Merlot, whatever you like, and really cozy up to this information because this is for you to learn from other girl bosses out here who are taking chances, who are doing things that they truly believe that they are called and destined to do. And so I hope that you take some pieces of awesome nuggets of information that are dusted in awesome glitter and gold and really apply this to how you start your business. So enough of me talking, Antoinette. This is all about you. So tell me about your company, TYP Social Media and Company.
Sure. So TYP Social Media Co. is listen, look, now I'm all tripping over my words because I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to follow up to that awesome introduction? But we are a social media management agency. So we are responsible for working with small businesses and helping them create their social media presence and actively manage them. It's exactly what it sounds like. So people come to me to say, hey, I need some help with my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram because I have a business. Can you start posting for me? Can you make graphics for me? Can you engage with my audience for me? So we do that for small businesses throughout the East Coast. And we have a couple other products and services that we offer as well. But for the most part, we specifically focus on social media.
Awesome. Now you said specifically on the East Coast. Now, do you not like the West Coast, or is it just that you don't have a footprint in other coasts just yet?
Mm-hmm. Not just yet. So we actually are only 2 years old. I can't believe it. So we're still reaching out and building our footprint. And while the West Coast is definitely on the plan, it's the East Coast right now.
Awesome. I love it. I have a special place in my heart for the West Coast. That's why I'm like, wait a minute. Wow.
Yes.
There's owners out there. So hopefully get them to look you up and see how they can use your services as well so you can continue to expand. So one of the things that, I think is really interesting with girl bosses is I think sometimes they get into this space where they've created a box for themselves. And so in that box, they start a business, they give a business a name, and they say, okay, here's the vision, mission, and these are the goals that we're going to do. And then somewhere they realize that there's something they want to do outside of that box that they create for themselves, but they're afraid. They're afraid to venture out. They don't know if it's going to be brand confusion, or honestly, they don't want others to think that they're all over the place. And so they really don't know how to begin to transition out into what I believe is just natural growth of a brand. And so I say that because I know when you first started out, you started out as a blog for young professionals. So can you tell us a little bit about where you started and really what triggered this desire to transition out into this awesome agency?
Sure. So this is where I think you have to know who your audience is. You have to know who you're speaking to. And I honestly tell people, like, I accidentally tripped up into social media management as a business because it was not on my radar whatsoever. Wow. Like, I figured out that this is what I wanted to do maybe 2 months before I actually launched. And it really came out of a need of just serving the readers of my blog and my followers that I had. So I saw the need that they were having. They were asking me questions about how I built my audience, which I always tell people it's not even large. They're just extremely engaged. Wow. So they wanted to know how I did that. And they wanted to know what analytics mean and how was my feed so fresh and clean. And then I said, okay, so we need to stop having coffee and conversations. We need to start doing consultations. Yes. And that's when I was like, you know what? I love Instagram enough. I understand it enough. And I could literally sit here all day on Instagram watching videos. This is a perfect fit. So, and I say that to say, like, know your audience, because if they're asking for it and you see it, then they obviously want it. That's right. And even today, I know that there's things that I want to do that I'm not sure about. And I just go on Instagram and create a poll, or I ask them questions on the Insta stories. And then I look at those responses and I say, okay, if I launch this product, they're going to buy it. Right. And if you don't have that just yet, that's okay. You can still look around to see what the market looks like. You can still look around and get research and see who else is doing it. And then the next step is to just really get over your fear, because if you don't do it, then you're never going to know.
That's right. That's awesome. And look, and now your baby is 2 years old.
I know. Can you believe it?
I think that is awesome. And thank you for sharing that, because I think that there is a fear, because I hear women all the time saying, you know, well, I have this desire to do A, B, and C, and they just don't go after it. It's like they truly believe that it's abandoning what they were first working on. And really, it's about an evolution. I mean, even I think of Prestige Society, we were first known as the Prestige Networking Group. We were not the Prestige Society, and we were small, and we would have face-to-face meetings instead of having a virtual community. So I think that it's really important to embrace the evolution of your brand. And I love how you talk about knowing your audience, because if you know your audience, then they're okay growing with you, and they're really growing with you because they trust you already. They're already bought into you being a trusted resource for them to tap into. So I love that story around how you transitioned. So I always ask business owners when they're creating their business. And so at some point you loved Instagram. At some point you said, wow, I could sit with Instagram all day. But what was it that you were seeing? What problem were you seeing from your fellow business owners that let you know that there needed to be a creation of a company that would solve this problem?
I knew that there was a problem because I was getting this. Okay, you teach me how to do this, and then I run with it. And then they would always come back and say, can you just do it for me?
Yes.
And that's when I knew, okay, social media management is the business. Because at first I really just thought it would be consultations, maybe some graphic design here and there, strategy sessions. That's what I really thought it was going to be. But then I just kept getting offers on managing their content. And then I realized, okay, there's other agencies that are doing this, and I don't know very many in the Philadelphia area. So I'm also one of those people that's like, okay, you're going to pay me to do something? All right, I'll take the check. Come on, let's do this. And I just built upon that and was like, you know what? Okay, here we go. We're going to do the social media management piece of it. And I took it and ran.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what's funny? I always thought social media content management was something that only celebrities accessed or utilized. I would look on Twitter, and I remember I was looking up certain publicists, and publicists would put that their specialty was around social media content management, but it would say celebrity social media content management. So I never even thought of using someone to manage my social media as a business owner, because once again, I'm like, well, I'm not an actress, and, you know, I guess I can get an assistant to do it or an intern to do it. but it just makes sense. Just like you would outsource an accountant to handle your books, just like you would outsource a publicist to handle your public relations and brand awareness. It just makes sense to then outsource your social media content management, especially if it's something that you don't really know how to handle. Because, what I see a lot of is people handling their business social media content like it's their personal page.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
They don't understand aesthetic, layout, like even the cadence of like when they should put things out or how much they should put things out, running campaigns. Like they don't look at that stuff. And so what ends up happening is that they then just kind of do a random selfie, or like I'll have someone say to me, no one's buying anything from me. And then if I look at their social media content, I'm like, well, you said you had a new line coming out, but then you don't have a line. And then like, there's no call to action. Like you're not telling anyone to buy now or use this code for a discount. So, people are just looking through the feed and they're liking it because they see that you have something new, but then it's not driving them to a call to action. So I always say, like, you should not handle, and I'm not the one to handle your social media content for you because, see, I only like to do my own, and then like completely leave yours hanging by the wayside, and you're going to be mad. So, like, definitely I see the need for there to be a professional handling of business owners because it's your brand. Like, it's building the aesthetic of your brand. I just think that's so important. So I love that you're moving into this space and you're helping people understand why they're needed. And the fact that you even saw that there was a gap in the market. So that gap then allowed there to be an opportunity for you. So where publicists may only be doing this for celebrities, now you're saying, wait a minute, there are agencies who are doing this and there are not many in Philadelphia. Let me go ahead and take advantage of that. And I think that's awesome.
Right. And then there comes the part where we're living in an age where social media puts a lot of people on the same playing field as a celebrity.
Yes.
So celebrities have been doing this influencer thing for the longest time. It just wasn't in social media. It was on commercials and, photographers would take pictures of them in the Fendi outfit and then that would drive traffic to Fendi. But now everybody's on the same playing field. And even if you don't have a business, you can take a look at your social media and say, well, how would I come off to a particular future employer? Or what am I saying if I want to get into this prestigious organization and they're looking at my social media? So everybody has a brand and everybody has a platform. And it's definitely something to think about now that we live in such a digital age where you can literally meet people from across the country in 2 seconds on a phone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's funny you said that. I remember I went for my first management position in 2010 and the director sat down with me. And the first thing she said that she did was she looked not only at my LinkedIn, but she looked at my blog that I had. LinkedIn profile. And at the time, the blog was attached to graduate study work that I had done. And so it was all around how adults learn in corporations, things that companies should look at when investing in their learning. And the first thing she said was like, wow, this really lets me know that that your resume isn't just fluff, that you truly have thoughts behind things that impact what we need to implement here. And I'm like, oh, so people Google people? Like, because I didn't. Yeah. and not, like, my background's HR. And I was like, that's a thing. Like, people really do that? And I'm like, that's crazy to me. And that was my first time really hearing someone say out loud that they looked me up and this is what they found. And then, of course, I just experienced it so much more on many different levels, some good, some bad, meaning some people found prestige and were like, oh, what's this?
Yep.
And I still didn't care because it did not go against corporate policy. So we just gonna keep it on moving. And
exactly.
But, it's like but you realize that, like you said, everyone has a brand and, you may not think people are looking you up, but people are most definitely looking you up. And if you have, certain things that are showcasing you in a way that's not favorable, then it could actually work against you instead of for you. So I love that you even touched on it from that standpoint, because a lot of our girl bosses still work 9 to 5s and, the funding of their 9 to 5 to fund their dreams. So that's something they need to be aware of as well. So I love that you talked about some of the problems that, you started to recognize and you saw that out of those problems were great opportunities for you. So what are some of the most common services you find that people contact you for?
So the biggest thing that I'm finding right now, and I say that this is more of my business to consumer product, because my social media management services are typically business to business. So, but for my business to consumers, like someone who might be looking to refresh their LinkedIn or create their online brand, I'm doing a lot of strategy sessions and a lot of strategy planning. So that way that person can understand, okay, you know what, I want to be perceived as this. So I need to post about X, Y, and Z on the 21st of September because it's National Dog Day. And I made that up. I'm not sure if National Dog Day is the 21st, but it is.
It is.
Yes, but it is coming up because I wrote it in someone's strategy last night. So I'm doing a lot of strategy sessions so people can start planning their calendars as opposed to just posting on a whim.
Yeah.
A lot of people just decide, you know what, I'm just going to post and, I have this pretty picture and I think this could work, when it really just takes some thought. And I think that's the biggest benefit to working with me. I can think about what your social media should say, the content, how to engage with people, and then you tell me what your goal is so that way I can make sure your message is correct.
Absolutely.
So that's more like what my B2C people are B2C, business to consumer is looking for, or consultations. And then my business to business, they're looking for someone to just set it and forget it. They're at that point where in their business, they have so many other things to worry about. And like you said, I think if you have the option, or if there is an industry that specifically does the task that you can do on your own, but there's people that can do it, go ahead and hire them if you have the funds. So now you don't have to be your marketing team. You don't have to be your accountant, and you don't have to be your HR person. You can really just do what you're best at. So my business to business clients are really just looking to no longer do their social media. They're either tired of it or they hate it, or they think that someone else could be doing a better job for them. And at the end of the day, analytics help and they reign supreme. But sometimes it's really just the comfort of, I have someone posting for me and it doesn't look like a blank page when someone's looking me up or looking up my business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting how many people say, like someone just said to me, and I actually recommended you. So it's a TV show that's going to be on Amazon's Twitch. So Twitch is like this new live streaming site for, it's like for Amazon. It used to be for gamers. So it's like they're dubbing themselves the YouTube of Amazon. So now they have access to like this very professional TV studio. And I remember them when they were like grassroots, like in their home, recording every single Wednesday, and they would show the back end of it. And so on YouTube, you would see like the finished, edited actual product. So what's really cool is that they were like, oh, you know what? We don't have time to do social media. So I laughed at that. And they were like, no, you don't understand. Like, we have jobs, we're writing content. Like, can you just do it? And I'm like, so wait, let's get this. You don't have time. I do not have time. I said, but what you need to do is really think about, if you guys can't own it, there's 3 of you. And if you guys can't own this, then you should really think about hiring someone who can. And I was like, and I have a reference for you. So that way, you don't negate it, because there's things that were happening with their show that is not being communicated on social media. So like their change over to Twitch wasn't really that widely publicized. What's going on, and reminders like 7 times. Like I had a boss that would say to me, 7 different times, 7 different ways, Doss. And now on social media, it's like 7 times a day. And I'm like, what? No, I'm not doing nothing 7 times a day. I'm looking like for people to actually see it, because there's just so much going through people's feeds that there's a chance that they may just completely miss it all together. But no one really has time to do that either. And then someone like you who truly studies, because this is what I do not do, right? I like to make things pretty. I don't know the strategic stuff behind it, like that's you, right? So you know analytics, you really understand the cadence, the frequency, because I'm part of her Facebook group, so I get all of these nuggets that she provides in the group. So those are things that people really should take into consideration. Or like you said, National Dog Day, I literally made a note to myself that that's where I'm lacking. I do what's pretty, and I ask myself, what do I want to sell and how do I want to inspire? But I realize I'm missing other components of what's happening out in the world that impacts my audience that they should know about. So now I want to do like more points where it's like just telling them tidbits of information that'll help them, or celebrating something. Or even when you said like do a hashtag, I think that was like for Juneteenth, but like I think we used like Beyonce's image. I was like, I couldn't believe how much engagement I got off of that. I never even thought of that. I was like, this is so different. Like I literally sit planning what I want to sell, what do I want to say, and that's it. And there's all these other components that I think that are missing, that someone like you help business owners or just people who have a brand who really want to make sure that they're handling or managing their social media responsibly. I think that's something that really helps. But I think the biggest thing I hear is that people do not have time. And for business owners, I feel like that's a hot mess. Like you need to have time, because this is how you are communicating with people across the world about what your brand is.
Exactly, 100%. And I understand what that is. Like my social media page for actual TYP Social Media Co., I ended up just having to put on there, I'm so busy managing other people's accounts that this account is neglected. So I get it. I struggle on my own personal brand sometimes. So I'm spending my energy and my hours helping people who just really don't have time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you get your junior associate, then they can do yours.
Exactly.
That's what we're going to claim in the atmosphere. So so you told me kind of the common things that their business owners are asking for, but did I ask you what should they be asking for?
Who should be asking what?
What services should they really be asking for? Like they may be coming to you for like management or things like that. Like just let me just post it and forget it. But really, what should they be really focusing on?
Okay, so this hits a soft spot for me because this client who does not do this research is a very hard client to work for, and then we either have to end the relationship or we have to backtrack and do our homework. And so people don't understand that social media is not your only marketing focus.
That's right.
Yes, people will tell you, I built $100,000 business on Instagram, and that's all cool and great, and it happens. But that, again, it happens. It's not that is typical. And typically there is a lot of strategy that goes behind getting that first $100,000 off of Instagram. But any business should take the time to first, before you even, and I'm actually writing an ebook on this and I hope to have it done very soon. But before you even hit, let me look up and see what my username should be, you should know your key marketing focus. So you need to know who your audience is. Yeah. That's number one. I can't create content and not know who I'm speaking to. So for example, you need to know if your perfect customer is a Black woman who's 27, who is a business owner, who has natural hair, who has a dog, who has a spouse, and she likes Insecure, and she likes waking up on Sundays and going to church, and she likes to, let's say, work out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And with just that alone, I now know that on Sundays, I can write her a motivational Bible verse that she's going to enjoy. I know that I can talk to her about what happened on Insecure. So now I'm on trend with what everybody's talking about on the internet, and I'm talking specifically to her. And then I can talk about how having children and owning a business all at the same time is pretty crazy. And then I hit her with this is my product, and I know it works for you because you love natural hair products, and this would work wonders for you when you need to go to the office and only have 10 minutes to do your hair.
That's right.
So even in just like those small things, you can get so much out of creating the content that's going to speak to your perfect person. Other things that you should know are your pain points of your client, the pleasure points of your client, where you're going to be the next 6 months. So what events are you hosting? What events are you going to? What's your overall goal? Another thing I tell people to do all the time is, who do you need to speak to? So for example, one of my clients, I said, I know that your goal is to get 5 new clients this month. Who do you think they're going to be, so I can start talking to them on Twitter? They don't have to know that it's not you talking to them, but I know that I can at least go there and say on Twitter, hey, good morning, Sarah. Yes. So it's all about like doing that research before you just start selling, because who is going to accept a page that's just selling? I'm not paying attention.
That's right.
So knowing who your key client or target audience is, and then I would also really understand what your brand is and who you are as a person. So things that I love that clients come to me with are their 30-second pitches, their bios that are done, and pictures that are set up. So while I can help you with your marketing plan, and I have a contracted team that will help you with that, if you come on board all ready to go, we're good. We have a week to set up, and we can start making content today, because I fully understand what your business is doing, and you have a full understanding of what your business is doing. And now it's just about making sure that we get your target customer engaged.
That's awesome. So do you usually find that you get this foundational understanding of really like what the brand is, who their targeted audience is, through your discovery sessions that you have with them as a consult?
Yes. Sometimes I can get it right then and there, especially when someone is very clear on what they're doing, or they've worked with PR companies or a marketing company in the past, and they have all of that stuff set up for them. Mm-hmm. But if not, what I do is I try to shadow them. We do conference calls. I read over things that they may have done in the past, like articles and videos, just so I can learn as much about them as I possibly can. So that way their client doesn't have to. I can just present it to them in social media.
That's awesome. I love it. So do you find it's a hard sell to transition clients from thinking one thing to what they really need?
Sometimes I do. And the way that I present it to them, and I try to do it as nicely as I can, unless you're watching my Insta stories. And I tell people, I'm like, you don't have a social media problem. You have a business development or marketing problem. Because sometimes it's not necessarily your social media presence. It's a back end issue that you have. And I walk them through how their customer may perceive them and the issues that I see. And I try to translate it in dollars, saying, this is your miss right here. This is why you haven't sold XYZ products, because your audience doesn't understand, or, you aren't, gaining as many followers as you think you should be, because you're not spending your time in the flesh networking personally. You have to do all of it. It can't just be one thing.
I love it. Okay. And for my audience, it's hearing all the stuff going in the background. I'm so sorry. My mom's in California and she won't stop texting me. I'm like, stop texting me and don't text okay. And she's like, okay. I'm like, so stop.
That's busy life right there. It's okay.
I know. I'm recording. And she's like, do not say okay. Do not say okay. Yeah, because that's natural, right? Someone says something, go, oh, okay. No.
Yep.
You handle it.
I get it.
Thank you, audience, and Antoinette, for being very understanding. Usually when it's just me recording, I hit mute, but I can't hit mute because then I won't hear you. So
gotcha.
That's why we're just dealing with these things as they come along. So what are some of the top lessons you've learned? So just so the audience is aware, you recently did the very courageous faith leap into transitioning into entrepreneurship 100%. And I know that that takes a lot of courage, a lot of planning. I'm a creative soul. So like literally, I was going through some issues with my job, and I took it as I woke up one morning and I would pray. Like, that's how I knew it was deep for me. I would pray every day that God would protect me and my team from all harm. Like, can you imagine going to work and feeling like you were going to be harmed? And we had like a really crazy director who, she just knew she was crazy. She didn't care. She loved that she was a bully, and she was new. So she bullied everyone. She bullied us. She bullied the person that she reported to because she just could. And there was no protection. The VP of the company or that particular department, after a lot of HR complaints, basically said that basically we have to shape up or ship out. And what's really scary is because we were in HR, so there was like no protection. So it was a really crazy thing. And every morning I would get up and I would pray for protection. And I would pray for protection from me. I would pray for protection for my team. They felt singled out. They felt, and it was hardcore. I mean, 8 hours of like this constantly badgering 16 people. And so what God placed in my spirit is that if I've made you to be more than a conqueror, why are you waking up every day already defeated? And so when that like stepped into my spirit, I was like, you know what? You are right, God. Like, I'm not walking up in here like a punk. I'm not a punk. I'm not doing this anymore. I have, good intentions. I care about my team, and I'll show up as, a strong manager. And I ended up being in a meeting, and I felt like I was being attacked. And I said, you know what? Let's do us all a favor. And here's my 3 weeks. Yeah. And I said, now I'll give you 3 weeks because I need to make sure that my team can transition in a way that's comfortable for them. But here's my 3 weeks. And I did not really do a lot of planning because that wasn't something that I knew I was going to take the leap in January, but this was September. So there were like a lot of checks left that I didn't really bank like I thought I was going to bank. And my husband was like, oh, I'm on PTO today. Are you on PTO? And I was like, yes, like forever. Like, oh, so, there was like a lot of like, there were conversations that I didn't have. There was, so there were like all these emotions around how I took the leap. And I just remember not feeling really great about it. And so I went back to work for, a family-owned business to really learn more about entrepreneurism. And one of the things that I loved about this particular company is that it started in, I believe, the 1930s. But they literally went from being like this, like one truck, one shack to being a company that has 9,000 employees and they generate $1.7 billion a year. And so I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you create something that missed the depression and completely defeat all odds and then come into this space where you are basically an industry leader and you still operate with just your family members, like running the company? And so I thought that was really interesting. But there are these lists for me. Like, I have a checklist now of like, when I take the leap again, these things have to be in order. And so, when you took the leap, can you share with our audience, what was that like for you? And what were these like internal checks that you decided to kind of do before you decided you were really going to take the leap?
So I toyed around with the idea for a very long time because I told you I'm such an accidental entrepreneur. Like, it's not even funny how accidental I am. I truly was just doing this. Once I figured out that I really love social media and that I was going to start this agency, it was really just side hustling to pay the student loans, honestly, and pay the rent. And then And I told my mentor when I first met her, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. I want to be this corporate CEO at like a Fortune 500 company, because that's what I write in my blogs, and like, you can't tell me differently. And I really thought that that's how it was going to go. So I got to a point where I was waking up at 5 a.m. to do work and then going to work. And then getting off at 5 and then going home to do more work and then getting up on Saturdays and Sundays and doing more work on my side business. And it just got to a point where I was burned out, like burnt. And the business I wasn't doing any active marketing per se. It was all word of mouth and referral. I actually, to this day, have yet to do any real advertisement as far as like my services. So I realized once I got to a point that I was making half my income in side hustling, that what could I do if I left my job and I had all this magical time? Could I replace that income? And I have a background in business development, so I understand sales processes and how to generate leads and how to close the deal. And I said, that's just the part that I'm missing. That's the part that I don't have time for, because this is all coming in referral and word of mouth. But if I was to really, dive in and do that part of it, then I think this will work. And honestly, the day that I quit, I gained 2 new clients.
Look at that.
And so I had this feeling for months, but it just did not seem like the responsible thing to do. And I think because I'm at the older end of the millennial generation, like I still have very old school practices about the way I feel about the workplace. Okay. So it didn't make sense to just leave without a plan or leave, and not do anything. And I was very much leaving without a plan. I think I'm like you. I'm a creative, so I can plan. But at the end of the day, like, if I see the pretty butterfly in the corner, I'm going to look at the pretty butterfly in the corner and try to draw a picture of the pretty butterfly. Forget all the things burning on the other side. I just want to do this.
That's right.
So I just got to a point where it was overwhelmed. I knew that I needed more time to make this bigger because I saw the potential to make more money. And then the finances piece of it, I knew that it was going to be a struggle. So I started researching other entrepreneurs who had taken the leap and asked them what they did and trying to look for myself in their stories and see where I might fall. But I think overall, I learned that everybody's money is different and everybody's needs are different. And it just was going to be different for me. So a lot of people end up taking their 401k and using that money to live off of. And I went a different route. I ended up using credit. That's something that most people will not do because you have to pay that money back. But I also knew that I wanted to have something on hand as a savings. Yes. And I also knew that at the end of the day, and in my passes in the financial space, I also knew that at the end of the day, you could pay a creditor back when you pay a creditor back.
That's right.
When it boils down to it. Yeah, you want to pay on time. Yes, you want to have awesome credit. But if it boiled down to, I don't have it, I don't have it.
That's right.
And when your savings doesn't have it, you truly don't have it.
That's right.
And again, that's not the way that I would preach to everybody, but it just made more sense for me. Yeah. So I knew that I had to get creative in replacing that income, but I did have a couple lines of credit that I could fall back on if I needed to.
Yes.
And so I found that as my quote unquote plan. And then the last step of it was really just getting over the fear of what if. So even with money, I would actively budget, actively plan out my things. Because again, I come from that financial space. And I just had to realize I had to let go and be like, if it don't get paid, it don't get paid.
That's right.
But also in the same vein, if I don't leave and I don't try, I'm probably going to hate myself for not trying.
That's right.
Me personally, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not married. I don't have children. My only responsibility is my dog. Yeah. So I was just going to take the opportunity while I can, worry about myself and live on anyone's couch that I need to live on if things got bad.
Yes.
So it just was also getting over the fear of the unknown. Because at the end of the day, I know that, like you said, I prayed on it and I'm going to be okay regardless. If it fails, it fails. If it wins, it wins. And then at the end, I also had to let go of the idea that I would fail if I go back to work. And that is absolutely not true.
That's right.
I told them on my Insta story, I'm still interviewing for jobs to keep myself fresh.
Yeah.
And if I want to go back and get my health benefits, I'm gonna go back and get my health benefits. People do it all the time. I have a friend who she didn't want to be an entrepreneur, but she was choosing companies based on what their healthcare package was look like so she can have her baby.
Yes.
And she got the job, had her baby, had a whole year off of maternity leave, came back, and 2 months later found another job. So and I'm only saying this from like the corporate standpoint of like my blogging past and my side things that I do still with the corporate world. But don't laugh at me when I say this, but it's waste their time 2018. And I don't know what person is going to hear this and not hire me based on that. But this is the way the economy is right now. It's unfortunately, people say they want you to be a loyal employee, but they're also using us for what we're worth. So we have to make sure that the job is the right fit for us. And if that means you're an entrepreneur and you go back and you get the things that you need, it's okay to go back and get the things that you need.
That's right. Like one of the things I think I'm thankful for is the fact that I work from home. So, and I work from home every day, except for when I have to go on to a project. So I think that really allows for me a level of flexibility that I'm really thankful for. And that allows me to do a few things. It allows me to still have my leadership skills because I actually deal with managing a remote team. So my entire team works from home. And the cool thing too is that the type of work that I do, we're called the startup team. So my job is to go in and help companies be successful within the first 30 days of them starting up, which is what we do with Prestige. We help women entrepreneurs be successful. And, it's the information and the insight that I get from these projects that really help me then give information to the women entrepreneurs. I mean, there's a lot of things I see going, because we're a third party company. So going into a lot of our customers like Ralph Lauren, Ocean Spray, Uggs, there's things we see, Lowe's, that like just gives us insight on how businesses actually run. And I think that that's a front seat that a lot of entrepreneurs do not have, that I'm very thankful for, because I think I did play with the idea of, am I a failure because I had to go back to work? But because I'm like I said, not only I'm a free spirited, but I do believe in purpose and that there's decency and order. So for me, even though I felt like a failure because I had to go back to work, one of the things that I looked at as a silver lining was the fact that I was learning from an entrepreneurial family. And I was like, wow, like this gives me an opportunity to work alongside people who make $1 billion, not $1 million, but $1 billion a year. How is that normal? Yeah. That's not in my immediate circle. That's not something that I see in my everyday life. So to be able to work for a company as a leader in the company and have access and see certain things, it really helps me understand how this company was able to grow within generations, which I think is awesome, which is, one of the things that I really try to even focus on with my family. But I realized that it wasn't failure. It was something that needed to happen. And I had to take the leap because that also let me know what I needed to focus on for Prestige, because I realized how I was not even ready. And you talk about income that you were bringing in that was helping with rent. I mean, there was a lot of money I was pouring into Prestige that I wasn't even seeing. When you make six figures, your company has to make six figures, and it was not making six figures. And when you got kids, a husband, a house, girl, you like, listen, there's certain things that I would be willing to sacrifice that like my family was looking at me all sideways. And I had to say it. I'm like, listen, this is this entrepreneurial life. We don't have time to buy $150 sneakers. And my mom used to be like, Mom, I really do not like this entrepreneurial life. And I realized I didn't want to equate the entrepreneurial life with struggle. I realized I didn't want to equate the entrepreneurial life with a lack of opportunities, because the reality is that it's not that. But I didn't want that to become the narrative, because I didn't want that to become the way I thought and how I operated. So, for me, I love that you talk about your planning, how you toiled around with the idea a little bit. And then, the sacrifices you were willing to make. And even knowing that even when you speak to others about the leap, that everyone's experience is going to be different, because, you were worried about you and your baby Macy, and Macy is a beautiful little puppy, but yet, well, not a puppy. She just is tiny. What is Macy?
She's 3.
Oh, what is type of dog?
Oh, she's a Shih Tzu.
She's a Shih Tzu?
Nicole?
Yes. Did I lose you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I got you. I hear you now.
Okay. So you said she's a Shih Tzu, right? So yeah. So, you figure, I had like a whole toddler and actually when I left, she wasn't even one yet. So like I was really playing. Wow. Like we had to buy diapers and a little bit of formula. Like, I was playing games. Mm-hmm. But I had to do it because I had to go through the process. I had to experience it so that I knew what I wanted to do for next time. But I really appreciate your transparency. But I want to let you in on something about the piece around the credit piece of it that I actually like that you said. So one of our members, Nicole Green, went through a program with Goldman Sachs. And it was called, I think, the 10K Small Business, or it was called 10K SB. And
it's an awesome program.
Yes. Yeah. And she didn't realize until later in the program how many of the business owners were millionaires. And so what she learned for herself was that her and her husband, who run, they do like a healthcare advocates program. And so they are insurance brokers. They have an insurance company. They have number of agents that are under them. They have actually customer care reps. It's a very comprehensive company that they both run. And so the one rule of thumb they always had was that whatever they generated as far as income, they would use like their own money to fund the business. And what the difference between what she did versus what her I guess those that were in her cohort shared is that they readily relied on credit and how much credit allowed them to do so much more, and how the more they used the credit to help their business and the more they were able to expand, it really just allowed them to take a lot more opportunities and do a lot more with it. And so, I don't think you were far off at all. I think it's a different path than most of us think. But also, I believe Nicole is probably the only Black entrepreneur, let alone the only Black female entrepreneur in the room. So I think that there's something around us culturally where we don't use credit as a source because we weren't taught about that in our homes. And so and it's not a topic of discussion, but yet we'll definitely go into that 401k because we figure it's money, it's there, we'll have it, we'll take the tax implication, like we don't care. As long as we have the money makes us feel safe, then we feel like we're fine. But to your point, once it's gone, it's gone. Because I did the same thing. I think I had like 20,000 in my 401k that I was willing to use towards my mortgage for a year. And then another, because I figured even that I was like, good, like, it wasn't even going to be 20,000 for the whole year. So I was like, okay, great with that. And then I think I was going to use another 20,000 of stocks that I had towards, and it's like, once you deplete that, boo, it's gone. You can't come back from that, but you can always come back and get right with your credit score. You can always come back and get right with that. So I love that you even went into that piece of it around even looking at credit. And that's funny because we're actually going to be implementing a group called the Pink Diamond Circle, and it's all about finance, like how you build your finances and think about it so differently than what we've been taught. And it's really around like wealth management, because there's conversations we don't have every day. So then I think that really changes what we think about how we make certain choices with our business. So I love that you went into that space. Now,
can I just piggyback on something you said about the business piece of it, as far as like, you working at that startup so you can gain, additional knowledge. And one thing that I don't like that people do is when they say that Instagram meme that's like, they're paying you to forget your dreams when it comes to your corporate job, or people are like, I can't work for nobody. Guess what? When you run your business, you don't have one boss. You have several bosses. And if you can't figure out how to manage your manager, there's no way you're going to figure out how to manage your clients. It is different. And I just would encourage everybody to continue to work in a friendly and positive and strategic manner so you can get what you want and you can learn what you want. So when I came over to the nonprofit world after I was heavily in business development and banking, I was picking up program management skills. Mm-hmm. And I still continue to work on those relationships and massage them and make sure that I had a good personal brand at the company. And then what happened was when I left, they were like, bruh, we can't lose you. And now I contract for them. So half of that, when I said I was missing half my salary, I no longer am missing that salary because I'm still contracting for them. Because because it's not only that they get to keep me here to continue to do the work, but they understand that they not only have this great relationship with me and I know how to do it and all that other stuff, but they've hired a 30 under 30, they've hired a speaker, they've hired a business owner, they've hired all of these things that make their company look good. And it's because I kept, regardless of how frustrated I was some days working and how tired I was some days, I kept a smile on my face. And they respected that, and they saw that I'm hardworking, and it came out to work in my benefit. So I just encourage people to stop that whole BS about working a 9-to-5 and how you can't do it, and this is that and the third. No. Do it, because guess what? Those are going to be your future contacts.
That's right. No job shaming.
Right. Please, no job shaming.
One of the things that I love about what you do, so first of all, I think it's hilarious. I think one time you were like saying how you can't stand how like baby boomers and Gen Xers are like so enthralled with the millennials. I'm like, but you guys are so mythical. I love it.
We're unicorns.
You guys are unicorns. And, so one of the things that I really do love about you is that you understand the importance of like really networking and not networking in a sense of like, I'm going to go to this networking event and this networking event, but the real sense of the word of building relationships that help you grow. And so tell me a little bit about some of the relationships, if you can share, that you've built over the time that have helped you grow, and what were some of the things that even kind of gave you that boost or motivation to say this is something you have to start doing?
So I think it honestly started way back in 2012 when I started working in business development, which is really a fancy word for sales. Okay. But business development, which sales should be too, but people more so align business development with relationship building. Yes. But business development is truly, truly creating relationships so that way at the end of the day, you can close a deal and make a sale. Yep. And I came out of college during the recession or after the recession when nobody was trying to give up any jobs but sales jobs. But I think that I landed in a company that truly understood the art of relationship building. So they paid for Dale Carnegie classes and workshops that I could take in order to gain those skills. Yeah. But the sale wasn't, here, I have these flowers from the flower shop. Do you want to buy a flower? It was reaching up to high-level vice presidents, CEOs, executives, in order to gain their influence so that way I could sell the product to the whole company. Yes. So I had to find the decision makers so that way I knew that I was going to be able to get them to sign on the dotted line. And I take that lesson with me everywhere. If my networking opportunities don't include people who can sign the contract, then it may not be worth my time. You have to maximize your opportunities and you have to think strategically about who you need to meet so that way you're not running around in circles. Yeah. And that also means like, even if you're in a junior position or you're not in a management position, that it does not mean that you don't belong in those rooms with those high level people. And I think that's the part that people get caught up in. They typically just shy away from them because they feel like only VPs can be at that gala, or CEOs can only be at that conference. But there's nothing in the rules that say that you can't be there too. So I say get over that fear, let that go. And then it also comes down to just reaching out because you belong there with them, but you see how you can benefit them. Mm-hmm. And I want people to think of relationship building and networking as serving. You have to serve. Yeah. So even if you don't feel like you belong in those rooms, or you are not sure how you can get that person to say yes to working with you, it starts with serving. What do those people need, and what can you give them to make their life easier so that way they can open up the door and give you a glimpse? So my mentor, Dee Marshall, I met her in Philadelphia. She was looking for millennials in the area for a client. And so I met her there, and she wanted me to work with her on the corporate side for millennials, which I still do to this day. Mm-hmm. And while we had that conversation and she signed me on for doing millennial contribution, I never stopped emailing her to say, hey, what do you need today? Dee, what can I do for you today? Dee, I see that your social media could use this. Here's a graphic I made that you can share. Dee, I think that you should do this because somebody said X, Y, and Z. Hey, your event is coming up. What do you need? I'm there. I already know the details. I talked to your assistant. So it wasn't persistence in a way of, can I get in your office? Can I get in your office? Can we have a 15-minute call? Can we have a 30-minute call? Real build relationships. And then I also knew that by building that relationship and serving, I was also getting some insights, essentially shadowing and seeing how things operate. So that way I knew, or I had some takeaways that I could use for my business. Yes. And that's not to say that I used anybody, or not to say that like I'm only doing this for personal benefit. No, I truly do enjoy serving. Yes. And you can't serve everybody because sometimes it doesn't make sense. But even in my past career, if I saw, this is so funny. Even today, I'm on a board for a nonprofit called Cancer Who, and CHOP came out in the news today as one of the best hospitals in Philadelphia. So I told the CEO, you need to send a letter thanking them for helping your clients, because all the people that you serve are at that hospital getting benefits, and just congratulate them. And that's to build the relationship, but to also just give a nice word, because I'm sure, I don't know, maybe 10 people probably have done that. And that sets you apart right then and there. That's right. So it's about just stepping up. Yeah, it's just about stepping up and stepping out in spaces where people typically aren't. And if you're not comfortable with the ask, which you should, because you have to learn how to be comfortable to ask for money. But just offer, so that way you can get in those spaces and reach, so that way you're reaching up so somebody can pull you up. Yes. If that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. I love it. And I think that there's going to be some fear. I think that because people don't even know how to even initiate a conversation or initiate those type of relationships. And you know what? That might be the topic for New Year, New You next year.
Yeah, it might be.
Because I think that's the piece of it. Like, I know, Issa Rae talked a lot about like how we need to network across networks. Like, it's not always about moving up and networking up. And I think that now we are becoming more comfortable networking across the scene. But now, people don't know how to get into the rooms. They don't know, even understand themselves enough to move into a space where they can have conversations. One of my biggest things, I love that you said, don't be afraid of the ask, but some people don't even know what the ask is. Because I find myself asking that question to people a lot. Like, okay, so what's your ask? And they're like, huh? Like, that's an odd question for them. And my thing is, so why are we on this phone call? Why are we working together? Why are you, suggesting that we have this collaboration? Like, what are you looking for? And some people, it's because they haven't done their due diligence of understanding their business, their brand. They don't really know for themselves who they are, so that when it comes time to really be able to explain that to others, it becomes very difficult. And then because they haven't spent the time to do that, then they are really now just shying away from the process altogether. And I think teaching and helping people understand who they are. And that's even why we implemented our signature program, the Boss Academy, and why we closed our memberships for Prestige Society so that now they're only open to people who graduate from Boss Academy, is because women didn't know who they were as a business owner. So how can I network with Antoinette if I don't really know who I am? And if I see that you are confident in your space and your business, I don't really feel confident reaching out to you, because I feel like you may judge me because you have your stuff together and I may not have mine together. So I don't even understand. You talk about business plans. I don't really understand my objectives. I don't have really like straight, clear goals that I really want to accomplish. I'm just out here selling some t-shirts. It's like, so when you just get caught in the rat race of just doing the work and you're not seeing results that you really wish to see, or you aren't really comfortable and confident in how you're operating your business, then you really do shy away from building those relationships. Or you may feel really entitled. Like you just may feel like just because you're in the room, people should reach out to you. And because you don't know how to build those relationships effectively, you become frustrated with the process. And so I really think there is a need and that's why with Boss Academy, we want to build the woman entrepreneur first, so they truly understand what their business is and who they are as that business owner. So now that they're able to network with confidence, and there's none of this ambiguity of like what you do, who you do, how you do it. And I'm just going to use one of our members as a prime example. She basically has an online boutique. She would never describe the boutique as online boutique because she doesn't have a website, but it's online boutique because there's no brick and mortar there. So if there's no brick and mortar there, basically, and the only people can purchase products from you is from a DM, then you really do have an online boutique. But she couldn't understand why she couldn't get certain sales. And that's when we discovered, through working together, that it's because you really aren't making it easy for your people to be able to purchase from you. And so you have to go back to the drawing board and say, what type of business are you really? What type of business are you building? What are you going to do? And then you got to think about your processes from end to end. So from the time someone enters your space to the time they leave, what are they supposed to be experiencing every step of the way? And those are things we don't talk about and things we don't even understand that we have to think about until there are these relationships where someone then puts that knowledge into your space, like helps you see that. And I really think that is what I find really awesome about you, because you first of all, you end up at these conferences. I'm going to the blogger one. I was like, where's she going? Where's she going now? So you put yourself in these spaces to learn socially and collaboratively. And then I love how you have your business bestie little group. Hey. Yes. So I love that, because that helps you also share amongst each other, which I think is extremely important. And then, because everybody doesn't get this entrepreneurial life, and there are great things about it, and there's also some trials about it, and you need a platform where you can share and you feel like you're not alone. And so then the other piece of it is you need someone who's that big sister, that big brother, that auntie, or that uncle that's your mentor, that's going to help instill in you some lessons learned. Although your lessons are your lessons and your journey is your journey, there's some things that can open your eyes to so many different opportunities that you don't understand when you're in your own frame of reference. So once you're able to have this visibility into how others operate, that's when you're able to really grow. And then it's this ever flowing of information that you get from your mentor. And then believe it or not, your mentors learn from you. Like they do, they really do. Because I have a few mentees, and like they, just as much as I pour into them, there's things that they pour into me. Our intern literally had a meeting with Khloe Kardashian for her lash line. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
But go Boo, go Anaya and the Bougie Lash brand. So that was really cool that, she was able to do that. And we talked about that, because I've never gotten on the phone with a Kardashian to talk about, nor would we. But like, it was cool that was something that she had done. And that's something that she taught me about just from sharing her experiences with me. So I love that reciprocity that takes place as far as that flow of information. And then, of course, when you can take that back to your business besties, I think that helps too, because now there's this like flow of information. Elaine Johnson says all the time, where she's like, why can't we all secure the bag together and pass it? And I was like, what?
Absolutely.
Yes. Like, we should all be sharing with one another and collaborating with one another. So I love that you built those, like, it's almost like your own informal way of learning for yourself so that you can continue to grow.
Yeah. But it's also too, like, when the homie does well and the homie is up a notch, then she's going to pull you up too.
That's right.
So like, I love, I'm also just a natural connector. So like, I might not talk to you in a year, but somebody might have an opportunity and I'll connect, say, hey, I think this would be really cool for you. Just because I can't do everything. And if I don't do it, like no one's winning. But if you're my close friend or we're business besties or I know you, there's this sense of like unity where if I pass something along to you and you see that next thing and you pass it along to me, then the whole team is winning.
That's right.
Even on Friday, you saw me at Robin Dixon's events from the Real Housewives of Potomac. And honestly, like sometimes I can't tell people how I just end up at things. Like I really just do them on a whim. And it's a benefit, but sometimes it's like a negative because I'm tired. But we just went and the session was really informative, but it also wasn't information that was beneficial to the place and business that me and my business besties were at. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it just became a mission to connect with the organizers because that's who we need to be talking to. Yes. And one of the, Robin had mentioned the next theme for having her, she's empowered event. And I told my girlfriend, I said, well, that's not along the lines of what you're doing. So how about you go up there and tell her she needs to do X, Y, and Z? Because I didn't mention she had someone on her panel that speaks about that. And I got an email today from my friend that she is on that panel for next year.
Yes.
So and she was like, yeah. And she was like, thank you. Like you saw it and you gave it to me. But I'm like, if I didn't see it and if I saw it and didn't give it to you, then I'm just a straight up hater. But I know that now, and this is strategic thinking. And this is what I think people really need to work on, or the piece that some people may be missing because not everything is like right in your face. But now the strategic part of it is now she has a direct line to Robin, and so do I.
Yes.
Because that's my friend. So now I'm not 5 degrees separated, I'm 2 degrees separated.
Absolutely.
And that's all that networking is. So I keep women around me who are doing like-minded things. One, because we can help each other, and because I can't tell you how many phone calls out of me crying in the last 3 months, probably the last 30 days, to be honest with you. And calls like, girl, ain't nobody paid the invoices this month. But in the same vein, those are the same people that I can call on and be like, yo, I know you have a direct line to, I don't know, the assistant treasurer of such and such can you put in a good word for me? Because that's how business is done. I know that I'm in a social media. I know I do social media, and that's how people are getting business these days. But there is nothing over the power of in the flesh, personal relationships. That's going to elevate your social media and elevate your business like nothing else.
That's right. I love it. So as we wrap up this wonderful information, like this, people need to pay for this. Like this didn't need to be a podcast. This was great information. So, what would be some last type of, words of wisdom that you would love to share with women who are building businesses? And I got to tell you, like, there's 6 planets in retrograde. So it happened the entire summer. So when I tell you that people are sitting out here frustrated, upset, feeling like they're ready to close the doors to their business, aren't sure why people aren't communicating effectively, there's just a whole bunch of craziness that is happening. And people are at this point where they're really frustrated with their businesses. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that you would love to share with women, girl bosses out there who are listening around just building a business and building a business even through the ups and the downs?
So my first one is mind your business, because we get caught up in seeing what other people are doing that we either A, get down on ourselves, or B, we think we have to run this race, this magical race that the other person doesn't even know they're running against you in. So like even people who are in my space, like who would technically be my competitors, I don't follow them, or I mute them so I don't see what they're doing. One, to keep my content original, but two, so that way I don't get down in the dumps and like in this rabbit hole of, well, she has this ebook, well, I guess I have to do one too, and I don't have time. Like, no. You are your own race. Mind your business.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I would suggest too is get a therapist.
Yes.
It is a rocky road. And while I think anyone can be an entrepreneur, it just may not be for everyone.
That's right.
And if you are in this space, just take notice or keep in mind your mental health. Mm-hmm. I think it was 2 days ago, like I just realized as far as health goes, I'm not in my best space. I've gained 40 pounds back. I'm breaking out all over my face. Mm-hmm. And, I'm extremely stressed and it's starting to affect my health. And so that meant book an appointment with a therapist and book yourself a vacation.
That's right.
Which is exactly what I did. And I'm going to Disney World. Praise God.
Oh,
so I love Disney World. It's like one of my favorite places on earth. I'm such a child.
And you're going to be, I told you have this very innocent, demeanor about yourself. So that does not surprise me that you want to go to Disney World. But I love it.
Yeah. And like, even speaking to that, like I have a very strategic mindset and I'm very business savvy, but personally, I always tell people I'm all over the place. I'm a literal mess. But that's what makes it me. Like I promise you 9 times out of the day, me and Macy are somewhere lost and we don't know how to get back home. But all the time. But I would say get yourself a therapist because it's not just a rocky road, but your highs are really high and your lows are really low. Yeah. So imagine like someone who, and I hate to compare it to this because addiction is a real thing, mm-hmm. but someone who is addicted is always chasing that high. Yeah. And when they crash, it's very hard to deal with, which is why they're always seeking the high. Mm-hmm. So you may go through a very low for weeks and then you hit that client and you get that high. Yeah. And you're happy. But you need someone to help you manage that in between and when you're at that low point, or else you'll run yourself crazy.
That's right.
So I would say make sure you have a therapist or somebody that's really, really good to talk to so you can manage all of it emotionally. And then just run your own race because you know what you need to do and mind your business.
That's right. I love it. Love it all. Well, Antoinette, tell our listeners where they can find you, any social media handles that they should or should not follow for right now.
Yes, I'm the social media manager. Ooh, social media is all over the place. So my website is AntoinetteMiner.com. Not the middle initial, AntoinetteMiner.com. And that's where you can find things about who I am personally in my blog. And if you want to know about TYP social media, that is TYPsocialmediaco.com. I think the best place if you're going to follow me is on Instagram, and that is the handle Antoinette K Minor. I do give a lot of freebie business tips and things that I do, and plus it might just be entertaining to watch me get lost and look crazy. So that's what I'm known for on Instagram, is being a mess. But what did somebody say to me? Somebody said that I am like a duck. On the top, I'm very like above the water. It looks like things are okay, but on the bottom,
the feet are just going
under the surface. The feet are a mess. Yes. And I said, you know what? I like that. I'm going to take that and run with it. So
yeah, but I feel like that's a lot of us, because that I always say I'm a beautiful disaster. And I think sometimes like the members, when they come places with me and they see me just being me, like I think Ivory said it best. We were in Newark after going to Wind Rock Rule with D. Marshall. Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I think I made a mistake and like drove on some trolley tracks and it made her really And I was like, oh, we're going to be okay. And she was like, so Nicole Green was really scared, but Irie was like, I'm kind of liking this version of Nicole. Like, she's not so together. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm together when I'm about my business and I'm polished, but in my personal life, it's just a beautiful disaster. And I'm okay with it because it's a very interesting ride. I mean, it's never a dull moment.
No. And like, even when I was at the blogger conference, and then I made my way over to Newark to go to Dee's office, I told her, I was like, yeah, I got on the ferry, and then I got on the train, and then I walked. So I looked kind of crazy. She was like, what? And she's like, why would you get on the ferry? I was like, because the opportunity was there. Why not? Like, and which turned into missing like 3 ferries.
Oh no.
Getting lost. But listen, and she was like, and who told you to do that? I'm like, Siri. So,
yes.
So it's a mess, but again, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Right. But that's Antoinette came on Instagram is where you get to see all that funny stuff, plus get some, freebie business information via my personal triumphs and fails.
Awesome. And then the Facebook group. So can anyone join the Facebook group, or is this like invite only?
No, so it is a private group. Anybody can join. It's the TYP Social Media Society on Facebook. If you just search it, it should pop right up. And I do my best to try and give information, but most of the time, the members are in there asking questions, and they end up jumping in on the conversation and helping each other. And I will jump in occasionally to make sure your questions are answered as well. So it's a great resource and a great way to handle your social media business for free. And get in on the live videos when I get a chance to get in there.
I love it. Awesome. Antoinette, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This was awesome. I really like talking to you and hanging out.
No, because I'm Auntie Nicole. Like, that's what I'm like, because you're so Whitney in my head. I'll send you a picture one day so you can see her.
Yes.
Hair, everything. Oh my gosh. Face, like, you guys still remind each other. It's hilarious. But I thank you again. And I really hope that your words and your message really do bless a lot of women out there who are just trying to figure out their way.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone that wants to reach out to me, they're more than welcome to.
Awesome. Well, you have an awesome day.
You too. Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.